So I think it's really easy to fall into the trap of really being a doomer about the state of modern dating and just kind of how bad it is for men. And I know I've covered that a couple times on this channel, and I've kind of expressed a very doomer attitude towards it where it's like it seems hopeless. It seems like men just have it inconceivably bad. But I found this article from another YouTube that kind of compares who has it worse. You know, it's who has it worse, single men or single women, from Adriana E on the Medium. And so basically, she's going to go through both the male and female sides to see which one has it worse. Does any one side have it worse? I would personally be inclined to believe that men have it worse in terms of modern dating, but I'm also, I also want to hear the woman's perspective because I really don't want this channel to be like a woman hating affair, because we're not going to get anywhere if we make an enemy out of the opposite sex. That was the mistake feminism made, and it's the mistake I see a lot of like red pill manosphere stuff doing is, they're just making the opposite sex the enemy. And while I do want to acknowledge the problems with women in the way that they've been influenced by modern culture, I very much don't want to act like being a woman is like life on easy mode, even though it might seem that way sometimes from the outside. So, ladies first. Men have many gripes with modern day women, several of which I've observed within my generation. Here are just a few of the most troublesome complaints. Number one, every woman deserves a 10. I'll be the first to admit women's standards have gotten unrealistically high. We've been told the lie that every woman deserves a 10, and we should never settle for less than we deserve. Our friends cheer us on, and modern society supports us in our search for Mr. Right. But no one ever gives us the reality check that maybe Mr. Right doesn't exist. This is especially harmful when men do approach us because we're so used to being cheered on for our unrealistically high standards that we miss a good guy when he is right in front of us. I think this is absolutely spot on. And I have to applaud the author here for how she's going after women pretty hard. It's very unbiased, at least so far. And that's something that's exceedingly rare now. Like, even from the manosphere types, even from, I guess you could call, my side, if you really want to think about it that way, there's not much charity extended to women. And men's faults are kind of brushed aside, as if they don't really matter. We saw a bit of that in our red pill video, like the clip of the guy trying to claim that cheating for men is just totally okay, guys. I think this is absolutely true. I think we've taught women to kind of view themselves as these perfect beings because they're women. And we spent all their lives like affirming them and everything they did and just telling them that they can do no wrong essentially, and not doing the same for men. And so what that's created is it's bred narcissism. It's bred an environment where women think that they are like these perfect queens and they deserve a perfect man. And so that's kind of why we have these statistics where we show, like, most women want the top 10% of men, especially on like dating apps. And the 666 meme, 6 figures, 6 feet 6 inches, where that came from. It's this idea that the woman is perfect as she is, and therefore she deserves an extremely high value man without really having to do any of the effort. And any man who isn't that is beneath her. When in reality, a lot of those men are actually really good, and they have a lot to provide, and they're even more often than not on her level because she's not a 10, she's like a 6 or a 7 or a 5, which is not bad. And dating within your bracket is totally acceptable. And you'll find a lot of good partners in that demographic. And so what we need to do is kind of stop telling women that they're so great. We shouldn't be like demonizing them like we do for men, right? But we should stop with the constant reaffirming of everything because it's really distorting their perspectives. And she points this out very well, especially where she says, "We're so used to being cheered on for our unrealistically high standards that we miss a good guy when he's right in front of us." Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. Point two, contradictions, contradictions. You want a classic gentleman who opens doors, works hard, and provides for you. But he also has to accept that you don't need no man and want to do everything yourself. You want a man who works a high paying job so you can stay at home, but he should still have tons of time for you and three kids. You want a man who has tons of other women attracted to you, but somehow he's just waiting around and available just for you. Make it make sense. I think this is also true. What this comes down to is women desiring traditional men. They want that, even though it goes against feminism. They want that deep down because that's just how you're wired. Nothing wrong with that. It's biology. You know, men and women are different psychologically, and that makes them want different things. And that makes women want the traditional masculine dominant man. But that's clashing with the modern feminism that they've been brought up in. And so it creates a contradiction where women want the traditional man to be traditional, but they also do not want him to expect them to live up to their traditional feminine pursuits. On to the third point, the I am the table mentality. Men can never ask a woman, what do you bring to the table? We have a laundry list of what a man should bring to the table. And when asked the reverse, we're flabbergasted. We assume that being a woman is enough to make a surprise. With all the standards and requirements many women have, we seldom stop to ask whether we are the best version of ourselves. We are quick to pass judgment, but rarely take a look at ourselves and what we could be doing better. This line of thinking has resulted in many single, disgruntled women and many single, hopeless men. This is absolutely true. As much as I think the what do you bring to the table questions are kind of cringe, I do think it does actually expose a genuine problem, which is, and this kind of feeds into the first point, the I am the every woman deserves a 10 mentality, is women have been artificially given such a high sense of self worth and it's not even a high sense of self worth because, you know, valuing yourself is a good thing. It's just sheer arrogance and narcissism at this point. They've been trained to think that way. And so they believe, oh, just me being there is your reward, peasant. And since they don't want to do the traditional woman stuff, you know, they're not providing that to the table. But many of them are like girl bosses with careers, which means they provide an income, but the man is already working. So he's kind of going to have the money part taken care of. So you're basically offering him stuff he already has. And most men don't really want a career woman as a wife. They would kind of prefer a wife who stays home more. Maybe not one that doesn't work at all, but just one that makes taking care of the other responsibilities her priority while he works. And so that doesn't really fit. Like, yeah, sure, they might bring money to the table, but that's not, honestly, that's not what most men really want. They kind of already have the money part taken care of because, well, they have to work anyway, and also they just want to because that's kind of the expectation of them. Number four, modern feminism. Enough said. I just end it here. Modern feminism. But I will actually hear what she has to say. It shouldn't be controversial to say that generally men want feminine women. And yet it is controversial. Apparently, that's a crazy statement. Like, there are two genders and you cannot change. Modern women have strayed away from classical femininity. We're shouting about abortions and free the nipple and rights to inject our bodies with all sorts of patches and pills and IUDs and how men shouldn't care about our body count. We care more about climbing the corporate ladder, selling our souls to a job that doesn't love us in return with the hope that somehow our bank account will make up for a lonely, childless retirement. There isn't anything beautiful, feminine, or alluring about this lifestyle, and it's no surprise that men don't find it attractive. I mean, holy shit, this woman is based as hell. And it's exactly what all of us have been saying, isn't it? Modern feminism teaches women that they must act like men. That acting like a man is how you reach empowerment. That traditional femininity is bad. That you shouldn't want to be like that. And that Instead of providing for your family, your own flesh and blood who love you, your children who love you because you're their mother, you should instead go and work for a company that will lay you off if they're having a bad quarter, like what happened to my own mother a couple weeks ago. She was a stay at home mom for the first 10 or 11 years of my life. She went back to work. She worked for 7 years. Her job made her miserable. Every day she would come back, she'd be tired. She'd be more prone to being angry, and that often caused, arguments to break out with my dad and me and my brothers. And then at like 10 p.m. she would have to go back to work on their computer again, and she was miserable. And then they let her go unceremoniously without warning. She showed up to work 3 weeks ago. She found out she didn't work there anymore. No fanfare, no pomp, no a notice in advance, nothing. To be honest, I'm kind of glad she got fired because that job made her miserable. This is an example of what she's talking about here. These companies don't give a fuck about, and they will fire you at the earliest opportunity. And I just can't fathom how, as a woman, you would want to give up the opportunity of raising your children, caring for them, caring for your husband, all of which love you, or at least should love you. It's not worth it. All right, now the gentleman's turn. Yep, we gotta be fair, guys. You didn't think you were gonna get off scot free, did you guys? As many complaints as men have about women these days, women have complaints as well. And I actually welcome her points about men in this because, like I said, we're not gonna get anywhere if one side just shits on the other and then never acknowledges any faults of their own. That's the trap feminism fell into, which ostracized all of us in the first place. It started this whole mess. And that's a trap that a lot of the red pill stuff is falling into. So, again, if you want to really improve, if you really want to better your lot in life, especially in this regard, you have to make sure that you are addressing the problems with you because you can control yourself way better than you can control anybody else. You can't control most people at all. So make sure to, listen closely to these. Number one, sex addiction. This is one of the biggest problems that men are facing today. Of course, men want sex. That's nothing new. The problem, though, is the complete lack of self control and self respect when it comes to a person's sexual appetite. Sex is readily available at our fingertips these days. By consuming porn, paying for OnlyFans, and going to strip clubs is not doing men any favors in the dating world. Most men find these habits disturbing. Sorry, most women find these habits disturbing and off putting. If you're a masculine man of self control and self respect, you shouldn't be a slave to your sexual appetite. Completely true. Pornography use is rampant among young men. It's terrible and it kills your motivation to seek out something real because you can just get it on your computer. Why try? And it also further feeds into the hopelessness because you do it, you feel bad about it, but you think this is your only option. So you do it again, you feel bad, you think it's your only option, and then so on and so forth, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. And it's true, it is off-putting. A lot of these sex workers, a lot of these OnlyFans girls, they think the people watching the stuff or engaging in the stuff they do are disgusting. And they're right. You are disgusting if you do that. It's disgusting behavior. It's beneath you. It's beneath all of us, male or female. Whether you're providing or consuming, it's not good for you and it's not good for anyone. And you need to be able to have that self control. Do not go to clubs. Do not do hookups and one night stands if you want to be a decent man. Promiscuity is bad for women, but it's also bad for men. Control yourself, focus on being better, and when you get married or when you get in a long-term relationship, then you can, enjoy that without being a slave to it, without letting it dominate you and control you like a parasite. Hypocrisy part 2. Hypocrisy has no gender. True. Men want women to be sexually available, but also don't want them to be promiscuous or easy. Men also don't want to deal with the responsibilities that come with sleeping around, pregnancy, STD, emotional attachments, so on. Yet they expect women to go on birth control, have abortions, and not get too attached. so they can enjoy their fun in the bedroom and not to deal with the consequences. Not a good look. I agree. Yeah. I personally think that men should not be expecting these things from women. You should not expect her to just take her pants off for you at the first opportunity on the first date. Oh, she's totally right about how men kind of expect to get sexual too early on. And it's not fair to women. You really should wait to do that until you're established, until you're in a committed long-term relationship. You've been dating for I'd say like 6 months. If you've been dating for 6 months and your relationship's going well, okay, then you can start to open up the possibility. But not up until then. Also, if you ask a woman to have an abortion, you're a pussy. Okay? If you got her pregnant, that's your responsibility just as much as it is her responsibility. And the two of you need to raise that kid or figure out some kind of solution because it's not the kid's fault that you are a moron and decided to have sex when you shouldn't have. Number three, self motivation deficit. It doesn't help that young men lack motivation. It's hard to be attracted to a man whose sole hobby is playing Halo Infinite in his parents' basement at 30 plus years old. It's hard to be attracted to a man who has no ambition beyond folding t shirts, or a man who shares the backseat of his car with a 2 week old pizza box. No one wants to go into a relationship expecting to act like the guy's mom. Motivation, hard work, and drive are incredibly attractive and also increasingly rare in this generation of single young men. I totally agree. And I'll admit, I struggle with this myself. You know, depression's a bitch. What can I say? And I created this channel partially to give me something to work towards, to give me something to strive towards, to give myself a purpose that I actually liked, that actually drove me, rather than an obligation I just had to fulfill. Because I was struggling with this motivation deficit. I still am, but I'm getting better at it, and this channel is part of that. And I think there's many reasons why this motivation deficit exists, but it's basically a spiral of women don't want men anymore because women are all doing the traditional responsibilities of men themselves, primarily working and providing for their families. And so because they're doing that, they've also taken to, slandering men and demonizing them. So men are basically unwanted. And because they're unwanted, they feel like there's no point in fulfilling their obligations and working towards something. So they get depressed and they just play video games all day. And then they get lonely because they spend all their time playing video games all day and they're sad that no woman wants them. And so, because they're so lonely, they get more hopeless. And because they're hopeless, they don't try anymore. And because they don't try anymore, they get even more lonely. You see how it goes. And this was the case for me. I still do struggle with it. Like I said, I play way too many video games. Way too many. And all I gotta say for you guys is just snap out of it. You have to do something. You have to work and build something. Anything. For me, it's this YouTube channel. For you, it's something else. You have to make something out of yourself. You can't just sit in your room all day long feeling sorry for yourself and hoping that the perfect girl will just fall through the ceiling. It's not how that works. Trust me, I've been there. But she's absolutely right. Women don't want to date men who seem like they have no reason to live, right? Like if you're just coasting, playing video games all day, no ambition beyond folding t shirts, to me, it's like you're super depressed and you're basically just hanging on to life, but never really living. No woman is going to want that. You have to build something for yourself. If for no one else, for you. Number four, the masculinity crisis. In a social climate where the words toxic masculinity are thrown around left and right, it isn't a surprise that men no longer have a clear sense of what it means to be masculine. Men aren't taking initiative because they don't want to perceive as predators. They don't want to be accused of mansplaining, so they lose their backbone and they don't stand for anything. Men don't want to offend anyone and in the process forget how to be men. In practice, women don't find this passive attitude attractive at all. Women want masculine men. Again, she's reiterating what she made in the second point about women, and it's absolutely true. Men have become encouraged to be sissies. They've been encouraged to be these passive male feminist types, that just listen to the women and just don't ever speak up, don't ever assert themselves, especially not over a woman, because that's misogynistic or perceived as misogynistic. And they're basically being told that masculinity is bad. When the people who use the words toxic masculinity, to them, there is no difference between masculinity and toxic masculinity. It's all masculinity is toxic masculinity. They don't see a difference. To them, every man is Kratos in Greece. And so that's why you have to assert yourself, especially if you're in a relationship. Men are the leaders in the relationship. They are. And that doesn't mean being oppressive, because there's a difference between being a leader and being a dictator. And so that's what men need to strive for. And women want that. Women do want that. Like, even beneath all the feminism programming, by nature, they want that. And so they're attracted to it. And that's why these feminists want to date traditional conservative men, because they sense that in them and they're not getting it from the liberal guys. All right, so now we're getting into the final thing. Tiebreaker, men and women both have their issues. True. If you're a woman, women have it worse. If you're a man, men do. It's all about perspective. Both sides of the coin are doing a lot wrong and contributing to the dating problems we now face as a culture and society. Until we focus on ourselves and become the best we can as individuals, the dating circus will continue. True. I will say, I do think men have it worse in the current climate because of like the legal systems, the believe all women stuff, Me Too ish stuff, and just like the prevalence of feminism, of like the radical feminism in mainstream society. I do think men have it worse currently. We're much more single than women are. We're much more lonely. Our suicide rate is way higher. Blah da 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 da. But the point this article makes, I think, is incredibly important. Both sides have a lot of problems. Both sides need a lot of work. Both sides are extremely poor at telling the people on their own side what's wrong with them and what they need to fix. And I refuse to be another one of the red pill guys who just bashes women and goes, "Yeah, bro, it's totally okay to cheat on her, bro. Yeah, she needs to like make you a sandwich like every day, That's like her only purpose in life. And like, she's gonna leave you anyway, so just like sleep around, guys. Get as many women as you can, but don't ever get attached to them because you're better than they are." I refuse to be that type of guy. I think it's sick. I think it only makes a problem worse, and it hurts you. It hurts you to lie to you and to puff up your ego and keep telling you that you're doing nothing wrong. And just because the feminists are doing it doesn't mean that I will. And I hope you guys are willing to listen to me when I call out my gender, because listen, truth is, I fail in a lot of these aspects: motivation, hypocrisy, masculinity crisis. I'm kind of a coward sometimes, and I hate it. I really do. I detest it. But I want to do better, and I'm hoping to do better. And that's what you need to acknowledge, is just acknowledge your flaws, think about them. What are you doing wrong? Because you can control yourself completely, but you can't control other people. It's good to spread awareness about what's wrong with women. It's good to discuss it and to think about it. But you can't change women. Women can change women. And you can help that process along if you get a girlfriend or whatever. But ultimately, it's up to her. But it's up to you in regards to you. So please remember, the doomer attitude of, oh, it's hopeless for men, is the part of the problem. And I fall into this often. I will admit, I have episodes where I think, oh man, it's so over. But then you always got to go, we're so bad. You got to keep going. So yeah, I thought this was a great article. I thought the points it made were fantastic. I could scarcely believe that a woman wrote this. But jokes aside, no, this was good. And I advise you, think about where you failed on this, work to improve it, whether you're a woman or a man watching this. But odds are you're probably a man. But if you're a woman, go through these yourself. Do you have any of these bad qualities? Just know I'm never going to take it easy on either men or women. All right, because I want the best for people. I want this crisis of singleness to end for both genders. I don't want it to continue. I really don't. That's about it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time.